According to Naval News on April 10th, due to budget constraints and development timeline limitations, the U.S. Navy canceled the engineering and manufacturing development solicitation for the Hypersonic Air-Launched Offensive Anti-Surface Program, which was based on the Offensive Anti-Surface Warfare Increment 2 project in the fall of 2024. To put it plainly, the entire development program has been scrapped. So how did the Offensive Anti-Surface Warfare Increment 2 project come about? Clearly, if there's an Increment 2, there must have been an Increment 1. Increment 1 refers to the currently fielded AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile. According to the plan jointly developed by the Navy and DARPA in 2012 for the Offensive Surface Warfare Increment, the Navy's air-launched anti-ship missile program would be implemented in 2 phases. Increment 1 aimed to first ensure that the AGM-158C achieved full operational capability, with the deadline set for around 2020. Once Increment 1 was completed, the Navy would determine whether to initiate further development based on the threat level at time. By 2021, the Navy had finally begun full-rate production of the AGM-158C. Facing adversaries with formidable surface warfare capabilities and advanced hypersonic programs, the Navy clearly realized that Increment 1 alone would no longer meet tactical demands and promptly launched development for Increment 2, hence the origin of the Offensive Anti-Surface Warfare Increment 2 program, which is HALO Hypersonic Missile. The Navy had high expectations for this weapon. In terms of platform compatibility, the missile was required to support deployment across multiple platforms. It had to be compatible with the Mark 41 vertical launch system on surface combatants, capable of being carried by Navy aircraft such as the Super Hornet, F-35C, and the future 6th generation F/A-XX, as well as launched from the Virginia-class Block 5 submarines via their Virginia payload modules. The plan also included Air Force platforms like the B-1B and B-21 bombers. Tactically, HALO Hypersonic Missile was expected to have extremely strong penetrative attack capabilities, with 2 layers of meaning. First, it needed to possess exceptional survivability and the ability to break through layered enemy air defenses composed of naval surface-to-air missiles, missile defense interceptors, and land-based missile defense systems, in order to strike key targets deep within operational depth. Second, it had to be capable of autonomously searching for targets and conducting automatic flight path planning, allowing it to engage targets without relying heavily on external ISR or ELINT support. As for the most critical aspect, the missile's configuration, the Navy decisively opted for the most technically challenging route. In 2021, the Navy had 2 technological approaches to choose from. One was to follow the model of the Tactical Boost Glide project, developing a tactical boost glide weapon, essentially reinventing the Army's LRHW and the Navy's IRCPS systems. This approach had relatively low technical risk, but potentially limited performance. The other was to go straight to a hypersonic air-breathing cruise missile, requiring the use of a supersonic combustion ramjet engine. This depended on the progress of the Hypersonic Air-Breathing Weapon Concept Program, a joint DARPA effort with Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. Although test flights were originally scheduled for 2019, the program clearly suffered from serious delays. The Navy ultimately opted for the second approach, basing HALO Hypersonic Missile on the Hawk program. At the same time, the U.S. Air Force also launched its own program based on the Hawk program, known as the Hypersonic Attack Cruise Missile. In 2021, the decision was made to develop HALO Hypersonic Missile based on the Hawk program. Yet by 2024, the result was an announcement that the project had been canceled. The question is, what went wrong? According to Naval News, the official reason for the HALO program's cancellation was overall development cost. However, it's clear that the situation is more complex than that. After all, the Trump administration once proposed a $1 trillion defense budget plan. So citing cost issues alone doesn't quite add up. It's far more likely that the real issue lies in the technology. Looking at the progress of the hypersonic air-breathing weapon concept, which HALO is based on, the original schedule called for test flights of a technology demonstrator as early as 2019. In reality, these tests were delayed until 2022. And transitioning from a tech demo to a prototype and ultimately to a fully operational HALO missile would take even more years. Clearly, this project ran into major setbacks in its development timeline and was no longer on track to meet its planned fielding targets. As for which part of the technology pipeline caused the delay, that's harder to say. Some reports speculate that the issue may lie with the size of the scramjet engine. Based on the Navy's requirements, the HALO missile had to be compatible with multiple aircraft platforms, including the B-1B, B-21, and the carrier-based F-35C. This meant the missile couldn't be too large, likely not much longer than the existing AGM-158C, which measures a little over 4 meters. The AGM-158C fits inside strategic bomber weapon bays and can be carried externally by tactical fighters. In contrast, the U.S. Air Force's Hypersonic Attack Cruise Missile, which also evolved from the Hawk project, has grown to over 6 meters in length. This has two major implications. First, if the Navy wanted to launch HALO from surface ships using the Mark 41 vertical launch system, the missile would need an additional solid rocket booster over 1 meter long, possibly more than 2 meters, since scramjet engines require the missile to be boosted to supersonic speed before activation. However, the Mark 41 VLS has a maximum cell depth of 7.62 meters, already close to or exceeding the maximum tolerable length for HALO. In short, the missile likely wouldn't even fit. Second, even if the solid booster could be shortened, a missile over 6 meters long wouldn't be suitable for wing-mounted carriage on the F-35C. Furthermore, the B-21 bomber's main weapons bay is just over 6.35 meters long. That means HALO wouldn't fit in the F-35C's external stores or inside the B-21's internal bay. So then, what's the point of developing an anti-ship missile that neither the Navy's carrier-based fighters nor the Air Force's future stealth bombers can deploy? This strongly suggests that the real reason HALO was canceled is technological incompatibility. Specifically, the missile size simply couldn't meet the stringent platform integration requirements, and no viable workaround was found. The Mark 41 VLS has a square cell dimension of 635 millimeters and a depth of 7.62 meters. The B-21's bay is fixed at 6.35 meters. Both are already deployed or finalized. Redesigning either the VLS or the platforms would be prohibitively expensive, and completely replacing existing systems is out of the question. Faced with these hard limits, canceling the HALO program may have been the only option left.